I realized during the pandemic that I could not heal in the same system or on the same schedule or with the same habits that had burned me out. I recognized that I needed a new rhythm, a new roadmap, a new framework. And that is where Purposescaping was truly born. And before I share a little bit about this philosophy with you, I want us to pause and center ourselves, come home to ourselves for a moment. Place your hand on your heart. Take a deep inhale and release. One more deep breath in. Say this to yourself. I am not a machine. I am allowed to rest. I am worthy of alignment. I choose myself. That, my friends, is your personal rest revolution. So, purposescaping is the framework that has changed not only how I live, but how I lead, how I coach, how I parent, how I relate to myself in the various seasons and chapters of my life. It is purposescaping. And it was inspired in part by the agricultural practice of crop rotation, the teachings of George Washington Carver, as well as a translation that I received from my very own grandmother, who was, if you've been following me for any time, one of my very favorite people on the planet. She transitioned in November of 2024. And I'm still processing the fact that I can't call her or just go visit her. But fortunately for me, I have a lot of audio recordings of her voice. I have a podcast capsule with 4 episodes where she actually talks about this philosophy. I have video footage of her. So in some ways, I revisit her voice and her words, and I feel like she is still here. And I know she's here. She's with me. I feel her presence, but the physical, reality that I can't go hug her or hear her in the present call my name, Mandarina, what she called me, one of her many little pet names for me, and that beautiful Southern drawl of hers. But she was one of the people who helped me translate this framework, several years before she passed. And so she helped me understand what's happening on a farm through the different seasons. And then I took that metaphor and applied it over what I have observed with my clients and the different seasons of purpose. And so on a farm, you plant, grow, harvest, and then if you're smart, you let the land rest. And you have to go through each of these seasons. They're all necessary. No season is wasted. And purposescaping is truly how do we apply the principles of healthy growth in nature to ourselves, because we are beings of nature. As much as we try to mimic machines, we are actually more like the plants in the wild than we are the machines in a factory. So purposescaping maps the 4 seasons of nature to your personal and professional rhythms. Each season brings its own purpose, its own energy, its own advantages, its own threats, and its own specific work to do. Quick overview of the 4 seasons and how they relate to you and your life and your purpose. During spring planting, you're experimenting, dreaming, launching something new. This is a season of intention and vision casting, but it's also a fragile time because new things are fragile and they require tremendous care and a specific orientation and approach to help them successfully take root. Now, once summer comes along, it's time to nurture what has taken root, what is strong enough now that it is really reaching towards its full potential for growth. So you're building, you're learning, you're sweating it out through the middle. Your stamina is tested, but so is your commitment. This is where you keep showing up day after day, doing some of the same things when it's not as exciting because you're not watching something spring forth from the ground, but you're also not kind of cashing in on the harvest. It's just the day in, the day out grind of growth, but it's critical if you want to get to a season of harvest. And so fall harvest comes next, which, I've been thinking a lot about because the first day of fall was a couple of days ago. And so whenever the seasons change, I'm always thinking about what lessons are there to teach and what principles can we bring to the forefront as we naturally observe, the planet regenerating, fading, going through its shedding process, going through renewal and birth. Like, how can we make sure that we are also giving ourselves the space and the grace to complete our seasons? So in fall harvest, it's time to pop your head up. If you are someone who has traditionally been a heads down doing the work, your fall harvest season is the time to look up and observe the results and the rewards of your hard work. It's time to reap those rewards, the visibility, recognition, profit, abundance. It's time to collect your fruit, but also prepare to release and let go. Now, winter rest, as I'm sure you've heard me talk about the concept of repeatedly skipping winter, which I write about at length in chapter 4 of the Rest Revolution. But winter is the time to rest, but it's also a time to reflect, to assess, the last 3 seasons that have passed. What went well? What didn't go well? What am I going to let go of and release? And what am I taking with me in the spring planting season? So what do I want to repeat? What do I want to double down on? What do I want to swap out? What machinery needs to be replaced? What team members do I need to get on board? What needs to be renewed? What needs to be swapped out? Where do I need to come up with a new strategy because this is no longer working for me? What has expired? And what do I want to give a chance to potentially grow? Winter is the time that you think about all of that. You process all of that. You reflect deeply, you get still, and you face the truth of the past seasons so that you can make informed, empowered, authentic decisions about the path you will take in the next spring planting season. So you are not sitting still, but you are taking a beat and letting the ground rest from the seasons of growth so that it can restore the parts that have been depleted and you're ready to create again. One of the things that I've been pondering the past couple of days is how difficult it is to create from a place of depletion, right? If you think about anything that whether it's creativity from an artist, creativity from a biological perspective, right? Like creating new life. If you are propagating a plant, depletion, if there are not enough nutrients for the host plant or for the mother, it's very difficult to have the tremendous amount of energy required to bring forth new life. And the same is true for ideas, artistic creativity, etc. We need to be well-resourced, well-rested. We need to have an overflow from which to pour and create the new. And so if you're finding yourself in a season of feeling uninspired and not having the wherewithal to come up with a new plan, new solutions, new ideas, new creative projects, new words, and you're feeling drained, bored, dull, uninspired, how can you give yourself the rest and the nutrients that you need to get yourself in a posture of creation and growth again. And one of the things that generates energy for us is our joy, our hobbies, the things that fuel us by virtue of nothing other than the fact that we enjoy them, as well as those energy generating relationships. And so if you are at a point of depletion, in addition to rest, in addition to stillness, I want you to also be thinking about how you can put more time into the activities and the people that fill your cup, light you up, and generate the energy that you need. So here is what I know. Most of the high achieving women, especially that I coach, are trying to live in a perpetual fall, always harvesting, always performing, always producing, or they're stuck in the endless summer of just grinding and pushing through with no end in sight. They skip winter altogether, or they resent spring because they feel like beginners again. But none of us were meant to bloom year round. Nature doesn't, so why should you? Each season has sacred work. And when you are requiring yourself to show up and operate as though you are in summer when you are truly in winter, or truly in spring, you end up wasting a lot of energy because your actions are out of alignment with the season that you're in. So when you know what season you're in, you can align your actions with what your soul actually requires. And that is when burnout becomes less likely, because you're no longer forcing what isn't ready to be harvested. You're not harvesting from depleted soil. So let's do a quick check in. I want you to ask yourself, what season am I in? Am I planting something new? Am I growing and tending to something in process? Am I ready finally to acknowledge and harvest the fruits of my labor? Or am I in a season of rest and recalibration? What season are you in? Not just in your career, but in your health, in your creativity, in your relationships, in your parenting. One of the most freeing truths about purposescaping is this: you can be in different seasons in different areas of your life. You might be in a winter season in your career, stepping back and reevaluating what's next for you, but in a spring season in your creative life where you're exploring and experimenting and rediscovering joy. You're not behind, you're just in process. So, burnout often isn't about working too hard. It can also be about working out of season, trying to harvest when you should be resting, or trying to grow something when the soil is depleted, trying to perform when what you really need to do is pause. Purposescaping, therefore, is about matching your energy, your actions, and your expectations to the season you are actually in. Because when those things are misaligned, the result is frustration, confusion, and burnout. But when you are operating in alignment, you can reclaim your flow and your rhythm. Purposescaping helps you to remember that you're allowed to shift. And just because you were in hustle mode last year doesn't mean you owe that same energy today. Just because you were on doesn't mean you have to be on all the time. And just because you said yes before does not mean you can't say no now. When you embrace purposescaping, you become a student of your own cycles. You begin to emerge. You begin to notice what's expired. You can honor what is emerging for you, and you can move with intention. I want to challenge you. You may think that you are behind, but what if you're simply in winter and the world has trained you to only celebrate fall and only see the value in the harvest? What if all along you've just been measuring success with the wrong calendar? What if this season of rest or reset for you, backing up and retreating, is actually right on time? One of the things I love about this framework is that it removes the shame that many high achievers feel. It removes that shame from rest. It removes the guilt from slowing down and the fear of pivoting. Because when you understand purposescaping, you realize that even the pauses have a purpose. Rest is not wasting time, it's preparing and restoring the soul. Right? Rest is not stagnation, it's incubation for the next season, which is so exciting. Like, get excited about that. I'm slowing down, I'm pausing, I'm pulling back so that something can develop. I am in a gestational phase. I'm incubating a new season when I rest. Now, your purpose is not a one-time destination. As you know, it's a cycle. And you don't arrive at your purpose one day and then that's it. You circle back to it, you deepen it, just as the seasons always come back, right? Spring will come back next year, and then we'll see summer and fall and winter, and then spring comes back. That cycle, the seasonal cycle, is reflective in your purpose as well. You continue to evolve. So when something ends, there's no reason to panic. It's just a shift in the seasons. When your energy drops, which is something that I've had to really accept about myself, especially in this midlife season, it's not a time to punish yourself or beat yourself up. It is a seasonal invitation to pay attention to what's going on and what needs to change. When your priorities shift, it's not a reason to shrink. It is a clarity that is emerging from within. So whether you are running a business, leading a team, head of household, stay at home mom, whatever you are leading, purposescaping is a chance for you to understand your leadership in its season so that you can make strategic decisions, set clearer boundaries, build sustainable practices, and prevent burnout. Because when you understand your seasons, you can respond in rhythm with what you actually need, not just what the world is telling you that you need or should do. So I want to challenge you on this, I think, second day of fall to stop asking yourself if you are doing enough, but to start asking yourself, are you doing the right things for the season that you're in? This is not a time to judge yourself, but to realign so that you can move forward with peace. So that is purposescaping, the framework overview. And I hope that as you observe the planet and nature around us shifting into a season of things beginning to slow down and fall away and prepare for the cold, cozy season of winter, I hope that you're able to observe what is needing to slow down in you, what needs to be brought forward and claimed, what needs to be cashed in on, what needs to be harvested before it expires. Because fall is a time to step into your power and claim your just due and your reward for the previous seasons of planting and growth. So let me know what resonated with you about this episode, what season you are in, what are you releasing this fall? What strategic asks or demands are you going to make this fall because you have earned them through the previous seasons? What is it time for you to claim because it is rightfully yours? And where is it time for you to make some shifts and release the things that have run their course and it's time to let them go? Let me know. Find me on Instagram and say hi. Let me know you listened. And if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the podcast. Leave me a rating and a review to tell me how these episodes are resonating with you. All right.